the 2-day period. I begin once again with the name of Allah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil anbiya wal mursaleen. Sayyidina wa nabiyyina wa shafi'i dhunubina wa tabibi qulubina Abil Qasim Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وخطابه المتين وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واعلموا أنما غنمتم من شيء فإن لله خمسه وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل إن كنتم آمنتم بالله وما أنزلنا على عبدنا يوم الفرقان يوم التقى الجمعان والله على كل شيء قدير. I welcome all of you to the 2-day workshop on Khums, where we will be looking at the best practices that one should adopt and the dynamics of Khums so that we are better equipped to calculate this religious obligation, as most people tend to set their Khums year either at the beginning of Ramadan al-Mubarak or at the end of Ramadan al-Mubarak, even though it might be as a best practice better to set it up at the beginning of the Khums year, at beginning of Ramadan al-Mubarak, for it will allow you to pay off this obligation during the month of Ramadan, where your ibadat, where your actions are rewarded many times its face value. So this will give you an added benefit if you have it before at the beginning of the month or just before the month of Ramadan. Let me share my presentation, inshallah, and we will have a question answer session at the end of the session. There might be cases or areas or instances where I might need some input, and I will inshallah probe for that input, inshallah. Okay, so let me just share the screen in a minute. Okay. So the verse that I recited is translated as follows. It's Surah Anfal, verse number 41. It says, "Wa'alamu, know that whatever you may come by, min shay'in." This tabir, this phrase, min shay'in, means anything that you perceive, you receive, that is considered ghanimat, that is considered. There is a discussion about that. I'm not going to go into the details of that, as it's a short 2-day workshop. Whatever benefit, whatever profit, whatever benefit arises to you, فَإِنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ. Know that 1/5 of it is for Allah and the apostle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the relatives and the orphans, for the needy and the traveler, if you have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the faith in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed on his prophet. And Allah is verily, he has control over all things. The last phrase of the verse actually points out to the severity of this of the punishment, severity of the punishment if one fails to fulfill this obligation. Inshallah, I'll talk about that later. And also, in kuntum amantum billahi. So it's going to be difficult for people to fulfill this obligation. They would be able to fulfill only if they have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in what Allah revealed on His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah has control over all things. And if someone does not fulfill this obligation, then Allah is not in need, and Allah has the power to punish them. The objectives, very quickly, let me go over the objectives of this presentation so that we set the context. First of all, we are going to do a little bit of self-evaluation, because most people almost or are already calculating their homes. But what I've noticed is that most people don't have a formal training into how to calculate their homes. But whenever it comes to doing your taxes or doing other financial transactions or doing other financial um, dealings, most people do learn how to go about doing that and what are the implications. They talk to lawyers, and when you're buying a house or anything of that sort, you look into these things so that you don't make any mistakes. But when it comes to homes, most people, alhamdulillah, do that. But then there is always a group of people who tend to be lazy, and at the end of the year, then they just want to do homes. And at times, what has been noticed is that because they don't know how to calculate their homes accurately, they end up paying a lot more, or they think that their obligation is a lot more, and then that becomes scary, and then shaitan uses that to stop them from fulfilling their obligation. We'd also like to see how Khums works, the dynamics of Khums, and based on that, we need to develop some practices and for calculating and for bookkeeping, so that when the time of Khums calculating and paying the Khums comes, we have all the data that we need handy. Most of the rulings regarding Khums will change or will depend on how the transaction was made, how the property was acquired. For example, was it acquired for business purposes? Was it acquired for personal use? Was it acquired for rental purposes? So based on what the intent was at the time of acquiring a land or a piece of property, that intention also plays a role in your home's calculation. So you need to keep track of all of that as during the year. Okay, and so the some of the topics that we'll be looking at is what is homes, who has to pay homes, what does it apply to, how you're going to calculate it, and then what are things that are exempt from homes, which is not liable to homes, and also what are the deductions that you can take. So just like in any other taxing system, there are deductions that you can take that can be deducted from your income, for example, and once those are deducted, the tax would be applied on the remaining amount. So similarly, in homes, which is a financial obligation, there are things that are exempt from homes, meaning that doesn't there is income that is homes free. Homes is not you're not liable to pay homes on that, and there is also there are also expenses that can be deducted from your income or from your savings. So I will talk in more detail as we move along. And the one of the objectives as well is to get motivated for a detailed course on homes, because obviously 2 days is not enough. I would strongly encourage all of you to get in touch with your local scholar or whoever has the expertise to understand more about homes. Okay, so what is homes? If you look at the actions of the duty bound of a mukallaf, the actions can be classified as acts of worship and non-acts of worship, like transactions, buying and selling. This is not an act of worship. Yes, you can convert it into an act of worship with the intention of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can buy a car with the intention of using it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then fulfilling the nafaqa, the duties that you have on your spouse and your husband, on your children, and providing them the comfort in life, and based on that, this transaction will become an ibadat. But even if you don't have that intention, the transaction will go through, the deal will go through, you will become the owner of the car. So we have all of our actions are either acts of worship or non-acts of worship. Acts of worship might include salat, saum. Okay. Acts of worship again can be divided into bodily acts of worship like salat, then monetary acts of worship uh, like khums. Right? So khums is an act of worship and it involves money. And then there are acts of worship that involve both your bodily exertion, a bodily input, and a monetary input, such as the great ibadat of Hajj. Right? You have to exert physically as well as you have to spend money on it. So one of the important things to note is that Khums is a monetary worship, which means when we use the word worship, it means that when you are performing this act, the niyat, the intention of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be there. You cannot pay something, give something to the poor, and then later on down the road count that as khums, because at that time when the when the act was performed, it was not done with the intention of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the purpose of giving or paying off your khums. Right? Just like you go to the swimming pool and you swim for 2 hours and you get out of the swimming pool, and then if you want that swimming to be counted for your ghusl Jummah, for example, it is not going to happen because you did not have the intention when you were doing that act. Now, regarding monetary worships, our fuqaha have this statement in their books, and it is a very serious statement and a deep statement. They say al-amalu bil-fara'iz al-ma'liya min as'ab al-ibadat. Okay. Performing the monetary worships are among the most difficult. Okay. It is easy to offer a 2 rakat prayer. It is easy to offer saum, but taking money out of your property and giving it to those who are the rightful owners of that money, that is difficult, and one of the difficult worships, and most people struggle here. And on a side note, one of the main reasons why people struggle here is because of the love of their dunya. The more you're attached with your property, the more you're attached with this dunya, the difficult it becomes to separate yourself from that, and greed kicks in, and you don't want to keep not only what is yours, you also want to keep with you what rightfully belongs to others. And there's another saying which is again a very important saying, and we'd like to share that with you. Musa bin Jafar والسلام, he says, Wallahi, by Allah, لقد يسر الله على المؤمنين أرزاقهم بخمسة دراهم جعلوا لربهم واحدا وأكلوا أربعة أهلا. By Allah, Allah has made sustenance on the believers easy for them. For every 5 dirhams, they allot 1 for their Lord and consume 4. It has been made halal for them. Okay. So the Imam is saying that Allah has made sustenance easy on the believers. For every 5 dirhams, the believers allot or assign 1 to their Lord, and the rest they consume, and this is halal on them. And then the next statement says, قال هذا من حديثنا صعب مستصعب. This is one of our difficult hadiths. لا يعمل به ولا يصبر عليه إلا ممتحن قلبه للإيمان. No one will act on it and no one will be patient over it except one whose heart has been tested for Iman. Again, if you go back and remember that saying from the fuqaha, that the monetary worships is one of the difficult ibadat, among the difficult ibadat. Imam is saying, La ya'malu bihi wa la yasbiru alayhi illa mumtahanun qalbuhu lil iman. No one will act on it and no one will be patient over it except one whose heart has been tested for Iman. So this is a sign of, if you want to test our Iman, we need to go back and see how vigilant and how careful we are when it comes to performing this monetary ibadat. Okay, I'll just skip this. As a self-evaluation, because most people are already calculating khums, so I'd like to share 2 different scenarios and get your input on what you think the khums would be. I know I haven't gotten into the details of what Khums is and how it is calculated, but most people already have an idea of what it is. So I just need to run two scenarios very quickly, and inshallah after that we'll get into the actual presentation. So this will give me an idea of how the audio where the audience stands, as well as it will be inshallah beneficial to set the stage for what we're going to do later on. So consider this example. So Ahmad has started work and he sets up 1st of January as his Khums date. Okay, so he sets up 1st of January as his Khums date. Now he is now retired, so all over his life he's been paying Khums. Now he has retired and he is living on pension. His pension is 40,000. So don't worry about it. So it's not USD, or so, because I give this presentation in different parts of the world. So this presentation was made for the Pakistani audience. So he receives 40,000, so rupees or whatever, okay, units in pension every month. His expenses per Khums year per year is 280,000. On December 1st, which is 1 month before his Khums date, he receives a gift from his son, 30,000 units. He's expecting a Ziyarat trip in March worth 250,000. Now, Khums date is December 1st. What do you think would his Khums obligation be? Simple, straightforward. Let me share this information in the chart format so things you can see things in perspective. And I'll give you a minute to calculate the Khums. So, at the beginning of 2020, he receives 40K as pension every month. Okay, then his whatever income he receives in the first month, if you look at these bars is at the bottom, they show how he spends this income. So this 40 income is used over a period of 6 months. The next income, pension income that he receives, gets used up in the next 6 months. So from the day he receives his pension, he starts spending it, and in over 6 months time, he exhausts all of his income. Just before his Khums date, which is 2021, he receives 300,000 as gift, and there's a heavy Ziyarat expense coming in March. Now, when 2021 kicks in, obviously he has to pay Khums. So, what do you think his Khums obligation would be? I'll give you a minute, and I'll just make some numbers easy for you. So this is a pensioner. His yearly income would be 40,000 times 12 would be 480,000. He receives a gift of 300,000 and his expense is 280,000. So these are some basic numbers that you might want to use for your Khums calculation. So what do you think? How much Khums should he be paying at the end of 2021? So you have 1 minute, and let me see what response I get from you. So you have 1 minute, and let me see what response I get from you. Okay, let us continue. I can't see your answers, so maybe if Brother can share the results on YouTube, sorry, on WhatsApp window, if there are any. So if there are any responses in the chat window, because I can't see the chat window. Okay, so no responses yet. It's not a difficult question. So I'm expecting at least one response. So this is the case of a pensioner whose monthly input stream of money is 40,000. 300,000 of gift expenses, and then there is an expense. Unless we are all beginners and I need to go through the very basics, I am expecting a basic response from someone. Brother, no response yet? Okay, this is not good. Anyway, let me proceed and share some of the information. So one standard way most people would have calculated this is as follows. So your net savings. So most people have this idea that Khums applies on your net savings. So your net income is 480 plus 300, which will be 780. This is your net income for this current fiscal year, and your expense is 280,000. So you subtract both of them, and you end up with 500,000 as your net savings. And Khums, which technically means 1/5. So you divide 500,000 by 5, you get 100,000 units as your Khums. So this would be one way of calculating Khums. Right, very good. So one response is 250K and the other response is 100K. 100K was one expense, one answer that I was expecting, which one brother or sister rightfully sent. However, this again suggests and proves my point that most people end up paying a lot more Khums. Like the first response of 250K is way too off. Okay, the second response of 100K is one response, but again, this is much more than the Khums amount that he should be paying. Okay, so if you knew more about Khums and if you are better equipped, okay, the Khums that this person should be paying is 0. There is no Khums obligation on this person. Okay, based on the rulings of Ayatollah Sistani, may Allah prolong his life and protect him. There is no Khums obligation on this person. Okay, so I get a fourth response of 50K, but again, there is no Khums obligation on this person, right? So if and imagine if you were to go to someone or you were to calculate your Khums yourself and you end up paying 150K or 100K, and later on you found out that you really didn't have to pay anything, you know. It's not a good experience. It's not a good feeling that you get at that point. Not because that you have given something in the way of Allah, but because you didn't have the right tools and the right information to calculate your Khums. Okay, let me give a second scenario, and inshallah we'll move on. So you just inherited 20,000 from your uncle. So you want to start a business, so you decide to be self-employed, and you buy a cab for 20,000 for the entire amount using the inheritance funds that you received in the beginning of the Khums year. Okay, so you receive 20,000 from your uncle and you use that to buy a car. Now you earn 1,000 every month. Okay, so your income is 100,000 per month. So your yearly income would be 12,000. Your living expenses, including your car insurance and petrol and car maintenance and things like that, and your food and your rent and everything, is 6,000. Okay, what is your Khums obligation? So someone who has a business, again, let me put that into context. So inheritance money of 20,000 to buy a taxi worth 20,000, to use as a means of earning. Yearly income is 12,000. Your expense, including your living expenses and maintenance and petrol, is 6,000. Okay, what is your homes? So another simple, straightforward scenario. There's no complication. These are very basic scenarios. Now imagine if you have stocks and you have rental income and you have investment property, how all of this is going to complicate things. If it is hard for us to get to to calculate homes correctly in simple, straightforward scenarios, imagine what mess we would be making in complicated scenarios. So again, I'll give you 2 minutes very quickly. And 45 minutes is nothing for a presentation as big as Khums, but inshallah I'll try to squeeze as much as possible in the remaining 20 minutes that I have, and then inshallah we'll go on to answer question and answers. Okay, so 2 minutes. I've gotten one response of 1,200, 1,200. 12,000 is your yearly income, 6,000 is your expense. So at the end of the year, basically you might be left with 6,000. And one standard approach would be so if you look at your yearly income from the cap is 12,000, but he also received inheritance worth $20,000. Are you going to count that as his income as well? So that is one thing to look into. So I get a response of 5,200 as well. So let me move on. So one standard way of the way the brother who got, or the sister who said 5,200, this is what they looked at. Okay, so they considered the net income as 20,000 plus 12,000, which will be 32,000. Expense is 6,000. You subtract the two, you get your net savings of 26,000, and your home says 5,200 Canadian dollars or US dollars or whatever. Okay. Now, again, this is paying way too much than what you should be paying, what your obligation is. There is nothing wrong in paying more, okay, but in order to be precise, this method was not the correct method of calculating homes. Okay, so your net income actually for this fiscal year is only $12,000. Inheritance income is not liable to homes. Okay, so whatever you receive through inheritance is homes free. Okay, meaning you don't have to pay homes on that capital amount. Okay? So your net income is only 12,000 and your expense is 6,000. So your saving is 6,000. That's why the first response you get is 1,200 units. Pay attention. Beware that even this is an incomplete calculation. You did not use all of your deductibles. Okay, you can still pay less and fulfill your wajib obligation. Okay, and this proves my point that not knowing these details ends up in a situation where the mukallaf, where the duty bound pays a lot more, and then they end up with questions. Well, I'm in need myself, and how am I going to complete my livings and my expenses and so on and forth. So based on the provisions provided in law, this car is going to depreciate in value as well, right? Any business asset or some business assets depreciate in value over time. So that depreciation also needs to be factored in. Okay? Now, obviously, you need to know these to be able to factor that in. Okay, so your net income, so inheritance is uh, not counted as liable to Khums. So your net income is 1200, your expense is 6000, and then you also have a car depreciation costs of 5000. Okay, that also goes towards your um, deductions. So your net saving ends up being only 1000 units, on which Khums applied would only be 200. So now look, compare this 200 from with 5200 or with 1200. Right? It's many times. It's not by a factor of 5%. We're not off by you are not off by a factor of 5% or 10% or 20%. Not it's not even not, it wasn't even 100%. Okay, 400%. 1200 is 400% off. 5200 is you can do the math. So I think this is these two scenarios should be enough to make the point that we desperately need to understand how Khums works, the intricacies and some of the complications that will work in our favor. This is important. Well, you can end up paying 1200 or 5200, your obligation will be done. But you paid up more than what was wajib on you. Right? Nothing, not that something is wrong, but you could have uh, paid your obligation in by paying less, and you could have used the other amount in charity and other uh, sadaqah acts in a manner that you would have wanted. Okay, so I'm getting a response, so let me wait for the response before we move on. We have like 10 minutes left. Um, Okay, so let me go to the basics and let us cover some of the basics. Yeah, so fourth, why can we discuss scenario one? Why no Khums? Inshallah, that will come in tomorrow's session. Instead of discussing scenarios, I would like to. What I'm essentially interested in is giving you the bigger picture and making you understand how Khums calculation work, so that whatever scenario comes, you know the answer, you know how to calculate it. So that is what my objective is to train you and equip you with the necessary pieces of information that will enable you to make a correct uh, calculation. And I don't expect that to happen in a 2-day workshop. Inshallah, we might set up a longer classroom type sessions. It can be done online, inshallah, as well, or whoever is better equipped can inshallah uh, do that. Okay, so it's 9:38 right now. The session was supposed to be 45, so I'll take 10 minutes and then I'll open the session for questions, and inshallah we'll move from there. So at least we should cover something. So who has to pay Khums? Is it an obligation on those who are baligh, those who are mukallaf, those who have um, lots of money? The answer is Khums is wajib on all ages and genders. Okay, this is important. Okay, it doesn't matter how old you are. Okay, Khums is an obligation on all people, even if it's a 3 years old child, even if it's a 2 months old baby. Okay? So in case of a baby, the guardian will have to pay Khums from the infant's property if there is Khumsable income. And mind you, at times a child might have Khumsable income. A scenario: the child receives birthday gifts from his grandparents, from his parents, from his uncles. That is the property of the child. If the child is receiving those gifts, and at the end of the year, it will be liable to Khums if he does not use it uh, in his personal. If he doesn't bring it in his personal use, there will be Khums liable to it. A child a 3 years old or 5 years old, 6 years old boy or girl inherits money from his parents, and then he uses that, invests that in a piece of land. He buys a piece of land with that. Any appreciation that will incur on the piece of land, if it is invested for business purposes, will have a Khums obligation at the end of the year. So every individual, be it a male or a female, whether you're a housewife, whether you are a working woman, whether you are a student, whether you are going to school, or whether you're working, whether you're jobless, there can be a Khums obligation on you. That's number one. Okay. Now, what is Khums? Khums is the monetary worship which is applicable to all ages and genders. Khums basically means 1/5 of either your income or whatever is left behind. Inshallah, I'll get into that in a few minutes, inshallah. So I'm racing against time with 9 minutes left. What does it apply to? Okay, now it applies to all income that you receive, all profits, all earnings, and there's a detailed list that I'll share with you in the next slide. Okay, and so Khums applies to these things, these 7 things that the Fuqaha have mentioned. Number one, this item number 1 is most important for us, okay, today, because the others generally don't apply to us, and if they apply, you can always look into the rulings. So it applies to the technical, the fiqh term that is used is faida mamluka. So any faida, okay, anything that qualifies as faida, as a benefit, that you own, okay, that you own, will be liable to Khums, whether it's 2 units or $2 or $10 or $1,000. Okay, and for Ayatollah Sistani followers, gifts is also considered as a benefit, as a faida that you own. Okay, so there are some delicacies here when it comes to gifts that inshallah we'll discuss tomorrow. So all income, all wages, all salaries will be liable as a general rule, unless it is exempted. All gifts that you receive will be liable to Khums. Any loan that you take from the bank or from your friend, for example, that is not considered a benefit or a reward or a faida. It is something that you have to pay back. You know, it's not a reward. Yes, you get the power to use that money and make money from it, or it is a help to you, but it's not technically a faida because you need to return it back. And so loans are not liable to Khums. So if you had taken a loan during a fiscal year and you still have some amount left with you, there is no Khums on that. Then there's Khums on mined products and treasure troves, halal property that has become mixed with unlawful haram property, precious stones, spoils of wars, and so on, and the list goes on. So I'm not going to talk about that right now. Okay, the tradition says Khums applies to fikul ma afad an-nas min qalilin or kathir. Okay, Khums applies to whatever people benefits, whether it's little or more. Okay, so even if you end up saving $2, there is Khums that will apply to it. Now, there are certain things, certain income streams, there are certain incomes that are exempted from Khums to begin with. Okay, from the very onset, they don't Khums doesn't even see that income. Okay, that income you don't even have to report that income in your Khums calculation. It's just outside the scope of Khums. Khums doesn't apply to it. One of it is loans. Okay, so any loan that you take is Khums free. You don't have to consider that as an income for your loan calculation. Any inheritance gift that the eldest child receives from the father, he receives certain things like Quran and the stone and certain other things, the rings. So these are Khums free, they're Khums exempt. Inheritance that is expected, for example, from your parents, from your uncle, any expected inheritance is Khums exempt. Blood money, monetary compensation that people receive as a result of accident, for example, you're in an accident and you receive blood money for bodily damages, that is not counted as income for Khums purposes. Okay, that's not as income liable to Khums. Then your dowry money. So a woman at the time of marriage is entitled to mahar. Okay, that mahar, whether it's small or high, it's little or high, it's exempt from khums. She's not going to use that, factor that in her khums calculations. Any khula payments that the husband receives as a result of a woman seeking a divorce. Zakat, if you receive zakat money, that will be exempt from khums, and so on. So the list goes on. We can discuss that on a case-to-case basis if things arise, and there are detailed rulings regarding that. There are things that are not exempt from khums, and we need to look at that as well. So wasiyat income. So a person, while he's dying, he makes a wasiyat, he makes a will that he wants to leave part of his estate to you. Okay, and we know that wasiyat is applicable only to 1/3 of his property, and he makes a wasiyat, he wants to give 10% of his belongings to you. So this income that you receive will be liable to khums. Okay, that will be liable to khums. Gifts that you receive will be liable to khums only after you take possession of that gift. Okay, so there are more detailed rulings to it, inshallah, later on. So for example, if I gift a car to my wife, and she already has a car, or I give jewelry to my wife, but I don't hand it over to her, I give her $1,000. I said, well, it's your birthday, I'm going to give you $1,000. This is your $1,000, inshallah. I will give it to you when I return back from my travel. So I still have the $1,000 with me. I've told her that this is your gift, your birthday gift, or whatever, your wedding gift, and or I've bought a wedding gift for you. Okay, this is your gift, but I will obviously give it to you when I return back from my travels. And then her home state comes in, kicks in. She hasn't taken possession of that gift yet. It's still with the husband. That will not count as khumsable income for this year because possession hasn't happened yet. Okay, so this applies to gifts. Sadaqah money that people receive. So even if someone is poor and he's been helped through sadaqah money, whether it's mustab or wajib, that will be liable to khums if there is something left at the end of the year. Unexpected inheritance and general income, salary, wages, and life insurance benefits. Okay, that is also considered as, because it's not diyat money, it's not blood compensation, that will be liable to khums, and the list goes on. So one of the things that all of us need to do while calculating khums is that we need to have an income stream info with us. So in this fiscal year, this is a list of income streams that I had. I had wasiyat income, I had dowry, I had gifts, I had salary, I had rental income, I had business income, I had my business property appreciated in value. So you have to have a list of all income, and then you have to then separate income into khumsable income and non-khumsable income. And this is how you need to start thinking about your khums calculation, rather than looking at your bank balance at the end of the year and, well, this is my bank balance and this is what was spent, or whatever I spent was from on my living expenses, and this is my balance, and just calculate it, divided by 5, and this is my khums obligation. Well, this could be one way, and at times it will not give you a wrong answer, but at times you might be paying more than what you might have to. Okay, so I'll give you a bigger picture, and then I'll stop for question and answers, inshallah. So if you look at this chart, so you have monetary input as it could be inheritance, rental income, bank profits, business income, gifts, dowry, whatever. You need to, first and foremost thing that needs to be done is tahleel. Okay, now most people, you don't see that coming into the picture in most cases, but what does tahleel mean? An important point here. Khums is liable on items that you own, that is yours to begin with. So if in your income stream there is haram income, Okay? If you have usurped, if you have stolen $10,000, God forbid, from someone and you've put in your bank account, okay, that $10,000 is not yours to begin with. There is no khums on it. You have to return that money to the rightful owner. The first thing that you need to do is to find out what is rightfully yours. So if you inherited a piece of house from your parents, from your father, and you usurped, there was your sister owned part of it, you didn't give her her rightful share, and you've taken control, you have possessed all of it, and it's all in your possession, and you're not giving her her share. And now at the end of the year, you want to pay homes, and then you say, this is what I own, and you take 1/5 out of it. No, that's again a wrong approach. Homes will be liable on property that you own, that is rightfully yours. So you need to make clear. You need to find out. You need to identify what is rightfully yours and what is not rightfully yours, and you separate that. And then sometimes there is haram money that is mixed into your halal money. Then you need to also come to terms with that, and see how much is halal for you and rightfully yours to use, and what is not rightfully yours to use. And this separation procedure needs to be done first and foremost. Once you have done that, then you will separate your income streams into khums free income and then khums eligible income. Okay, khums that is not liable, income that is not liable to khums, and income that is liable to khums. Okay, and all income that is liable to khums, you have the option, again, note this word, you have the option. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow in more detail. You have the option of deducting your expenses and other deductibles. Okay, and once you have deducted that, you will then be left with your value, with the number that needs to be divided by 5, or to calculate the khums that will apply to it. So 1/5 of that would be your khums calculation. Okay, so this bigger picture is, it's important to keep this bigger picture in mind. Any input coming into your life, you need to make sure it's halal income, it's rightfully yours. You have to make sure that, and then once that is cleared, you have to separate khumsable income from non-khumsable income. Khumsable income is separate. Khums it doesn't fall under the scope of khums. Only khums eligible income, which I've shown you the list previously, is liable to khums, and khums will needs to be taken out of that. Okay, because I've received a message from the administrator. We can go a little bit more, and I'll take questions at 10, inshallah. But I will end at 10, and then after that we can take questions. And I apologize for prolonging the session, but I think it's not in my control. If you want to finish it in 2 days, inshallah, with Allah's permission and His help. So look at this. Again, this chart is also important. So whatever is considered as faida, what is considered as a profit, as reward, as a benefit, is liable to khums. That is liable to khums. Now this most people don't know this. Khums becomes wajib on acquisition. So the moment you receive your income, the moment you receive your salary, 1/4 of it is yours and 1/5 of it belongs to the owners of khums. From the very onset, it's not that it's your money till a year passes by. No, from the very onset, you only own 1/4 of it. The rest belongs to the owners of khums. And this is a joint partnership, meaning it's you buy a piece of land as investment. You receive a piece of land or any input, any faida. The moment you get that, you become jointly own that. You jointly own that with the owners of khums. So yours is 1/4 and the rest is 1/5, belongs to someone else. Okay, so 4/5 is yours and 1/5 is theirs, meaning the it belongs to the imam and the sadat. It's not that you have time till year and it's yours for no. It would, from the very beginning it has been divided like that. But the imam, out of his grace and generosity, has allowed you to use that and in your expenses another for a period of 1 year. This piece of information is new and this will raise a lot of questions. I will address most of them inshallah tomorrow. So one simple and standard and simplest way of calculating khums is whatever your income that is liable to khums, you just pay off khums right at acquisition. So your take home salary is 100. If you are a daily if you're on daily wages, you earn $100 today. 80 is yours and 20 is khums. You can pay off your khums right there and then on the spot. That is one of the simplest methods. But yes, in this way, you will end up paying more khums because you will not be making use of a lot of provisions that the khums rulings allow you. But this is one simple way of calculating khums. Whatever income you receive, or in fact, the simplest way, right, whatever income that is liable to khums, you can just pay 20% of it right at acquisition. Okay, and use the rest at will, and then you don't have to worry about your khums here and your calculations and all of that. So if someone has the guts to do that, he can save himself all the trouble of khums calculations and just take 20% right at acquisition and pay it off as his khums obligations. This is not something I'm suggesting, but I'm saying that this is one of the methods that can be used, and there's nothing wrong with that. Your obligation will be done, and it's doable. Okay. Okay, I'll stop here and see if there are questions. Well, I'll discuss the more a bit complicated method, which most people are used to doing, and some of the delicacies surrounding that, inshallah, and tomorrow. And I would encourage all of you to please join tomorrow as well. Otherwise, half information is always dangerous, or incomplete information is always dangerous. I'll stop my screen share right now, inshallah, and I'll look at your questions, inshallah, and see if we can address some of them. Okay. Yes, I can see the question regarding inflammation. I will leave that after tomorrow, or in our detailed Khums class of whether you can factor inflammation in your calculations or not. I'll have to go into a discussion with you of how do you want to factor that in. So if there are more questions, I'd like to look into that. We've just started discussion of Khums. I'd want tomorrow's session to be done as well before we can look into this question. I saw the question on my screen. Is there any other questions? I'm not seeing that on my screen. If there are, okay, inshallah, we're waiting for questions. So it is important to know, as a brother pointed out, what things can be factored in or counted as a deductible from your income calculations. That is important to know. What can you deduct your losses, business losses? What about furniture? What about wallpapers that I use on my as a business expense? What about um, my business assets? They depreciate over a year. Change in net worth. Well, it's not precise, but you're getting there. Yes. So you have to see it is on your increase in net worth that is liable to Khums. So if bringing all of that in, yes. However, there are some more complications to it. Uh, for example, if you buy rental property, okay, you buy a house with the purpose of renting it out, and then even though there might be an appreciation in its value, in its price, you won't be liable to pay homes on it at the end of the year. Okay, so that is something exempt for on a yearly basis, unless when you, in certain cases, you'll have to pay homes only if you decide to sell it, for example. Okay, so yes, in a very crude sense, yes, what you're saying is, yeah, you basically are looking at your net worth again, not really, because your net worth might decrease based on some of your expenses and then increase again, and at the end of the uh, current fiscal year you might see that last year and your current net worth is the same, but it is possible that you might still have to pay homes on it because of where you spent your last net worth and how you have acquired your new income. So it is possible that your net worth might not change, but you might end up paying homes still. Yeah, so buying a house, so you save 20K and use that for buying a home for yourself. Uh, so if it's a house that you're using for your live that you need and it's considered your living expense, then no, there is no. And if you have used that before the homes year ends, then no, you don't have to pay homes on that. Okay, this question I can see the full question, which will capture your depreciation point. There's a part of it is missing, so I don't understand the question. So, brother Anand, brother's question is not very clear for me. Let me go back to the question one more time that was asked previously by the brother regarding house payment. So the question, as I understood, is that he saves 20K and then he used that 20K for down payment for buying a home for himself. Okay, so and then that has happened in the Khums year. So he saved 20K within the year, and then he ends up using that 20K for down payment for buying a home for himself. Then he doesn't have to pay homes on that money if it ends up being used for a living expense in that year. But if you have saved for buying a house and then the home state comes and you haven't used it and you're planning on buying a house in 2 years down the road or in the middle of the next year, then that is a different scenario. I hope it's clear. Yes, so this is an interesting example. We will inshallah go over this example tomorrow. So you have now this is a bit tricky question. Uh, a bit complicated, needs a little bit of math here. So if you use 20K towards your house, and you also had a mortgage on it, okay, unless we make it simple and we say that you don't have a mortgage on it, uh, and it has appreciated in value to 40K, then will the homes be on 40K or just 20K? So for Ayatollah Khamenei followers, if even if it has appreciated, even if you're living a house that you're living in appreciates in value over time, you don't have to pay homes on it ever. So even if you sell it for 200K, there is no homes on it for Ayatollah Khamenei followers. For Ayatollah Sistani followers, I'll have to go back and look at the exact ruling, but what I um, am recalling from the top of my head is that any any appreciation, it is possible that any if this income is liable to homes, it will be considered as your monthly, as your yearly income, and if you don't end up using all of it on your living expenses, then homes might apply to it. Now, whether it's going to be on 40K or 20K, inshallah, we'll get into that tomorrow. And I'll also take a look at it just to make sure that I have refreshed it before answering. But these are the issues. These are the details that are important. Which the brother has asked, whether am I liable to pay homes on my entire property, entire selling price, or the appreciation only. Now, given the fact that you didn't pay homes on the 20K initially, even then it is possible that you might have to pay homes only on the appreciation. That might be one thing. It is also I'll take a look at the ruling once again before I'm answering this question. But these are things to consider and know the answer before you calculate your homes. So if you save for house, say 100K in 1 year, and all the amount is not paid in year one towards your house, basically, that's what I'm understanding. And say, for example, 50K still left. So at the end of year one, you have used 50K towards the down payment or whatever. Now, when you ask a question regarding house, there is an assumption of a mortgage kicking in, which is not very explicitly mentioned in the question. So I'm not going to factor that in the question. So you save money, 100K, and then you use 50K of that towards your living expense, maybe a house or whatever. Okay? And you still have 50K left that you have not spent yet. So maybe you buy a piece of land. So you want to build your house. So in the first year, you use 50,000 to buy a piece of land, and you want to build on it in the next year. So once the homestead kicks in, the 50K that is left with you would be liable to homes. Yes, so retirement savings. Remember, homes would apply to anything that you own, okay, that you own, either mamluka, the word that I showed you in the slide. So if we have retirement savings that get directly from your income, so it gets deducted from your income. So it is your income and it is being put aside, okay, for you, and then it is growing there. Yes. So home, because it is yours, first of all, and it is a benefit or an income, part of your income. So the conditions would apply. It will be liable to homes. Yes, in certain cases, you can defer the payment of homes, and even if it grows over there and the growth is yours. For example, sometimes the company matches and you become entitled to the company matchings after 5 years of service. So first year you contributed 10,000 and the company also contribute 10,000, but the 10,000 still belongs to the company because you haven't served for a number of years. So you will not be paying homes on for all of your savings amount, but you'll be paying on what is only yours, what has been uh, what you have now, what has become your property. And yes, so on retirement savings, yes, there will be homes on it. Retirement saving is just like an investment that you're making, or you're forced to make. Yes, that is again an interesting question. It is not directly accessible. Well, it is accessible. It's not that you cannot access it. There will be some penalties and that you'll have to pay off, right? So you can take money out of your retirement savings. And in most cases, for example, people use that money to buy a house. You can withdraw it in certain cases if you're buying a house from your RSP or from your RRSP or your 401k. So there are provisions where you can withdraw. So for example, if you're withdrawing it before that and your homes year has passed on it, then you have to pay homes on it before using it for your house payment, unless it is part of your contribution for that current fiscal year, for that current homes year, then it will be. So it is due every year. You're only at times you're only deferring the payment because you don't have access to it. And if you have money elsewhere, you can use that to pay off. So if you have extra money with you, so you make your calculation and you see what your balance is in your retirement savings plan. You can make the you make the calculation, and you can, if you want, you can make the payments. Now keep this in mind. There's one important issue here. So if you have income, if you have money in your retired saving plans and you can pay, and you, out of your negligence, you don't pay, and then the stocks or the value of that retirement saving plans drop because of the bad investments that, or because of the stock market crash, it is possible that at times you might be liable to pay for the maximum value of that plan. Okay, maximum market value of that plan, not the end of 60 years value. So during the 30 years of your service, your retirement savings plans valued at 60,000, and then when you retired, it suddenly dropped to 20,000 because of market crash or whatever. So your homes life, it is possible, based on how you are doing your homes, whether you're neglectful or not, it's possible that you might have to pay homes on your 60% or on your 60,000 market value, because that was the home that was due. You only deferred the home's payments. So that's something. The same goes with shares. Yeah, saving funds for kids. Again, if it is a saving, as the title fund says, it is a saving, and it is your money, for example. So if it's your money that you are saving for kids, government doesn't tax you for that, but homes would be applicable for on it. Yes, unless there is one extreme condition where with that, if that is the only and only way where you can save money, you can do that, and if you don't do that, it will be considered that you have been neglectful as a parent towards your duties as a parent towards your child. So there is, if that clause doesn't kick in, as a general rule, yes, it will be liable to Khums if it's your money. Sometimes government gives money to the child directly in Canada, right? It goes to the child's account. So that is the child's money. You won't be liable. You're not liable to pay Khums as you're not liable to factor that as your income. That is the child's income, and he would be liable to pay Khums once he becomes baligh, or you as his wali might have to pay Khums on it, um, as long as he's not mukallaf. So inshallah, we'll stop here. Thank you for your time and for all the questions. And I inshallah encourage all of you to again tune in tomorrow same time inshallah for the second part of this presentation. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.